From the Citizens Bank studio, welcome to the Ricky Matthews Show, where we continue to celebrate all that makes this place such a great place to live, work, and play, especially the leaders of coastal Mississippi. Hey, listen, I talk a lot about the bookends. You've heard me talk about it many, many times, those bookends that Jerry St. Pé has many, many times warned us to not take for granted, that we should never take the things that are part of what makes coastal Mississippi so cherished for granted. The bookends being, in one case, Ingalls and Chevron on one side, and all the ancillary companies that are part of that. And then, of course, Stennis Space Center on the other, with the blue chip industries that are part of that. And then between hospitality and gaming and tourism, you know the story. I talk about it all the time. And if you're a regular listener, you know that I've had these ongoing conversations with Austin Golding from Golding Barge Line. And we've had tremendous discussions about the strategic importance of the Chevron refinery in Jackson County. We've talked a lot about energy policy and how Chevron fits into that. There's a lot to talk about as it relates to this really strategically important entity, not just in coastal Mississippi, but in Mississippi. And maybe I just should say the Southeast, because that's how significantly important this refinery is. I've decided to invite my old friend. He's been on the show long time ago, but I'm going to catch up with Alan Sudduth, who is the manager of governmental affairs for Chevron. He's gained some new responsibilities since the last time he and I talked. But before we go any further, let me welcome Alan back to the Ricky Matthews Show. How you doing, Alan?
Ricky, I'm doing great and really appreciate the opportunity to be back on your show again.
It's good to see you. Listen, Alan used to be, we're going to tell a little bit remind you some of what his background is, but he used to be the city manager for Pascagoula at one point. And we also served along the way. We served on the board of directors for the Jackson County Chamber. And before we started the show, we were sort of reminiscing a bit about how long ago that was. There's been a lot of water under the bridge. And for those of you on Facebook or YouTube or SuperTalk TV, you know this, but Alan doesn't show any signs of aging, that is for sure.
You're very kind.
It's been a great journey for you, though, hasn't it, Alan?
Oh, it's been quite a journey. Very rewarding. I think our journey began before Facebook. So we've been together for a while and working, looking for ways in which we can improve the coastal Mississippi, and it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, listen, I joked with Alan before we started the show. When you go in and look at his biography, he has just about done it all. I mean, one of the things that really sticks out is he's a member of the Nature Conservancy of Mississippi Board of Trustees. Incidentally, Alex Littlejohn is someone I admire greatly.
Great guy.
I mean, what a significant figure he is. He still is. I know he's going on to Weyerhaeuser, but he is one amazing young leader, and I really enjoyed working with him in the conservation community. The Merchants and Marine Bank Board of Directors, William Carey University Board of Trustees, United. I mean, I could just keep reading this, but the reality is, when you read this, you come to understand that this guy, he's a lawyer. Again, he's done the city manager stuff. He's been involved in the community. He would be a really good governor one day. He's got all of the bona fides. Member of the First Baptist Church of Pascagoula, deacon, trustee. He's a choir member. I mean, come on now. But Alan says that all these things are preparing him to be a better manager of corporate affairs at Chevron, and that's the right answer to give. But you do have a great pedigree, my friend.
Well, I appreciate it, but it does. In the role in government with the county administrator role, and with the legal background, and with the opportunity to serve in places like the United Way and the Chamber of Commerce, really set me up to be able to build the partnerships and to have kind of the experiences that allowed me to, I think, serve in this role. And it's been the leading up to the role has been a great journey, and now being able to do this work to represent Chevron locally and across the state is just quite a privilege.
So you gained some new responsibilities. I mean, you were corporate affairs guy here in the coast for all these years, but tell us about your new responsibilities.
In 2019, we purchased a refinery in Pasadena, Texas, and they were looking to kind of model the same corporate affairs and community outreach efforts that we do here in Pascagoula, Mississippi, along the Gulf Coast, there in South Houston area in Pasadena. So they asked us if we would expand our footprint to include that facility and the work we do. So we're privileged to be a part of that community. And then along the same, about the same time, we have an overnight facility in Belle-Chasse, Louisiana, and it's been there prior to the refinery being here. And they were looking to have a dedicated corporate affairs, community outreach person for that facility. So we added that to our group as well. So it's been, we're now multi-state. So that's kind of fun. And it allows me the opportunity to kind of grow responsibilities, grow impact, while still being able to stay right here in my hometown of Pascagoula and along the Mississippi Gulf Coast.
Yeah, that was the thing I mentioned to you before. Even after I left the Sun Herald in 2009, it was important to me to keep my home footprint in Mississippi, even though I had responsibilities in Alabama and Louisiana along the way. Home for me was always going to be Mississippi. That's the way it was. And the company that I worked for really honored that, and I'm thrilled that they did. But, I spent time in Louisiana. So when you say corporate affairs in Louisiana, or the same thing would go for Texas, you kind of skate over that like no big deal. But there's a lot to keep up with in terms of the political situation and relationships that you need to gain, and the importance of what you do, and making sure that others don't take those facilities for granted either. So it's a full-time job, I bet.
It is. The same principles apply as you pointed out. You build relationships, you build the trust by committing to doing things and following through on those commitments. And we apply that same concept in Pasadena and in Belle-Chasse, Louisiana. Both of those facilities are in areas that are supportive of the oil and gas industry in general, but just real big supporters of those facilities and have been for years. So it's a lot of similarities, and that obviously is critical to the success of being able to be a good community partner, is to have those relationships and that trust. So a lot of similarities, and we're able to kind of grow those relationships and maintain those relationships by kind of employing the same things that we do at all three sites.
Listen, I mentioned to you before the show started, and I think this is a great opportunity for people to learn a little bit more about what makes people tick and really important roles here in coastal Mississippi and really across Mississippi, because the show's expanded into other markets on Thursdays, and on other days it will go further as well. But I read a lot about passion for work and following your heart, learning from your mistakes, and just a lot of lessons that we were able to delve into with various guests. But one thing that's clear to me, in every iteration of your career where you and our paths across along the way, you've always had a sense of peace in what you're doing. You seem happy with what you're doing. Like you're committed to the community, not just because Chevron believes that's an important thing to do, but you get it. You get it. That's why you do it. Your church, your family, it's important to you to have balance, and you've worked hard to find that. But where does that sense of, I don't know, satisfaction or sense, how do you develop such a strong foundation that gives you happiness in what you're doing?
That's a great question. Difficult to answer. Not really great at retrospective or introspective questions, but I think early on I've always had an interest in community and in serving others. That's where I get most of my passion is, get a lot of my passion is being able to find ways in which I can help others, serve others, and make a community better. And at every point along the journey, even when I was practicing law, our firm encouraged us to get involved in community, join the chamber, and take an active role. And then when I moved on to this county administrator role, certainly had a lot of opportunity to serve the community in managing the county affairs. After Katrina, working through rebuilding a lot of areas. And that's given me a lot of job satisfaction, is that, I can look back and see, at the end of the day, I did something that hopefully made the community a bit better. And as I moved into this role, I've always had the most passion about finding ways in which to partner. Not you can do only so much as by yourself, but if you can align yourselves with others who are equally compassionate, have similar interests, you can do so much more. And that even adds to the reward, is being able to get that coalition together that has that single focus, that single interest, and being able to work with that group to achieve even greater success than what you can achieve on your own. So that, as I've been able to experience that, it's really driven a lot of job satisfaction.
Yeah, we'll actually continue this part of the conversation. We'll come back on the other side as we continue our conversation with Alan Sudduth from Chevron. We'll see you after this break. Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank studio. I have Alan Sudduth with us from Chevron. He's corporate affairs at Chevron, and we have had our paths have crossed many times over many years. And I came across this, Alan. I was thinking about it as you and I were chatting about, where you find your peace in the work that you do. It's an Albert Einstein quote, and he said, "A happy man is too satisfied with the present to dwell too much on the future." See, you never struck me as someone who was worried about much. You always struck me as somebody who was going to lead by example, going to put the time in, going to do the best you possibly can, and the chips will fall where they may. And having that point of view has really served you well, hasn't it?
Yes, it has. It's somewhat the scripture that I rely on a good bit about. One is kind of understanding your role. What is God's plan for you? And once you get into that, once you feel like you're there, you've aligned yourself with what God's plan is for your life, it's a great relief. Right? You're supposed to be doing what you're doing, where you're supposed to be doing it, and it's a peace that passes all understanding. And the part about Jesus said He came not to be served, but to serve. And so if you can get in His will and also exhibit in some respects Christ-like behaviors, it gives you that comfort level, like you said, that security in knowing that the future is taken care of. Whatever's going to happen has already been laid out, and you can just focus on today and doing the best you can with the time you have here.
Yeah, so interesting. If you were to ask me the same question, I might have given you a very similar answer.
I don't doubt it.
My wife and I, we read the Bible. We were Catholics, and we were very faithful Catholics, and we read the Bible together last year, the entire Bible, and the Bible verse of the day with Father Mike, and went through the whole process. And it was a great reminder of when we read it all in context. And the other thing that they did is they do it chronological. So it's part of the thing that makes the Bible hard to understand is it's out of sequence. Yes. And so this was in sequence, and it was better to understand. But it's a reminder of the kind of things that always drove me. I never worried at all about the future. I was just going to do the best I could today. One of the interesting things, when I retired in 2016, a lot of people asked me, John Harrison and Jerry St. Pei and so many others asked me, well, what are you going to do now? And I said, I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to enjoy my grandkids and spend some time up at our place in the Delta, and that's what I'm going to do. And I did it for like 4 years, and I was doing pretty good. But then I had an opportunity to do this show, and make a long story short, after a long conversation, I decided to do the show. It occurred to me what was missing. The thing that I enjoyed the most about what I did as a publisher and as a media CEO was the ability to connect with the community. And that thing, when you retire, you're missing that connection again. A lot of my friends, I still had all my friends, but I was missing the ability to help bring the community together, to even talk about tough issues from time to time that need to be talked about. Mm-hmm. And so I started doing the show, and to me, it was a little divine intervention. It was where my love of community intersected with my knowledge of media and the world. And now I have an opportunity to have conversations with people like you. And we're able to through our conversations, maybe teach others how to think about stuff. Why is Chevron important? Why is it important to get back to the community? what are the kind of things that make us find peace in the work that we're doing? And I certainly have found that well. So we very much share that answer almost word for word. That's for sure.
That's great. And way you demonstrate that every day in the way
well, I appreciate
you manage
you.
the show. So that's awesome.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Listen, Alan, one of the things that I think it's important for people to understand when I talk about Chevron being strategically important. Chevron is strategically important to Chevron, but it's important to this entire country. How do you talk about it when you're explaining to people this is not just another refinery?
So that's a great point. When you say Chevron's important, the refinery is just one part of an important part, but one part of the overall global energy company, right? I mean, we are across the world. We have assets in upstream and bringing crude to market. We also have the processing of that crude, and we have bringing it into products that are necessary for our world. They're energy products. They're different types of things in which we play an integral part in a lot of the different products we use every day. So global energy companies are important because energy is what drives everyday living. Right? It's necessary for us in the daily activities we have, in basic essentials, providing the things that we need to live and the quality of life that we enjoy. When you narrow down, kind of focus to the Gulf of Mexico area, this refinery is Chevron's largest refinery. We process 369,000 barrels of crude every day. It generates, 7 to 8 million gallons of gasoline every day. Our market is, as you said, certainly right around the refinery, but it extends up to the East Coast. We have a pipeline that serves that part of the United States. We have markets in the Central and South America. So we're a big supplier of Florida. Many folks may not know, but Florida doesn't have refineries. It also doesn't have pipelines. They decided many years ago they weren't going to do it. In fact, the Florida market and the growing Florida market back in the early 60s, late 50s, early 60s, is the main reason why there's refineries here today, to serve that market. So we serve Florida you have to serve it by ship for the most part, tankers and delivering to the terminals that are on the coast. The Tampa airport, Panama City, a lot of places depend on us for fuel. The airport depends on us to make sure planes take off timely. Then you talk about the Central South America. The country of Panama relies on us for our fuel. So there are countries, there are airports, and there's communities all throughout our area that depend on this refinery to provide those quality products, those fuels, each and every day.
There's for people who can understand the refinery process, there's gasoline, jet fuel, diesel, a lot of byproducts that go into making plastics. And I mean, these are being shipped all around the world, but people don't understand the global nature of energy. They think that America can just do this and it would change the price of everything. But it is literally a global market, and you're a global player in a global market, aren't you?
That's right. That's right. We can have, with the right policies and with the right investments here in the United States, we can reach what people label as energy independence. Right? We've been blessed with resources. We've got as you were talking about earlier, refining capacity. So from a fuel standpoint, the United States has the crude, has the technology, and has the refining capacity to be able to provide affordable, reliable, and also ever cleaner energy for our nation. But Chevron works on a global scale. We're serving markets throughout the world, and in the acquisition of crude is a global commodity, and the fuels are global commodities as well. So it all plays a part. What goes on in Eastern Europe affects things that go on in South America, and it is the entire energy market is impacted on a global scale.
Hey, listen, it was I had a really interesting opportunity. I had a lot of opportunities to speak after Hurricane Katrina, but one of the opportunities I got is Haley Barbour asked me to be a keynote speaker at a dinner, and it's an organization of southern states and Canadian provinces. And it was just an incredible meeting. I did for it hit me at that moment as I began to see the data behind it that Mississippi's largest trading partner, most southern states' largest trading partner is Canada, and really coming to grips with that. And people don't appreciate that, and it has a lot to do with the oil industry, doesn't it?
It does. This refinery, somewhat related. The port of Pascagoula is where our refinery is located, and that's where we get crude in, and that's where we export a lot of our products out. That I haven't seen the most recent statistics, but the port of Pascagoula is somewhere in the neighborhood in the top 30 terminals in the nation in terms of volume, and this refinery is about 80 to 85% of that volume. And so what we do here as far as the markets and the impact and the partners we have globally is pretty significant. Most of that market, again, is here in the Southeast. Canada, for us particularly, we don't have a strong partnership with Canada. And a lot of that's due to if we were to get crude. Canada has a good bit of crude, but there are not currently infrastructure pipelines that get crude from there to here. A lot of that we'd have to get through shipping and tankers, and that would take a while.
Hey, when we come back on the other side, we'll continue this. We'll talk a little bit about America's energy policy and how it impacts Chevron. What's the next 30 years look like? When we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Alan Sudduth. Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank studio. I have Alan Sudduth, who is with Corporate Affairs in Chevron. We go back a long way in our careers. We've intersected in the community many, many times over the years. When we went to break, they were talking about the massive amount of business that Chevron does and the impact that they have on the port of Pascagoula, which can't be overstated, is really important. And the perspective I will bring, and I mentioned this on the show the other day, I do a lot of fishing offshore. So as we're traveling offshore, the number of ships waiting to unload or headed back out to sea, the super tanker coming in, then downloading to them, and then the amount of activity that's going on, the transferring of products and all this stuff. When you look at it, when you see it with your own eyes, how it's massive. It is a massive undertaking.
Absolutely.
And it's done safely. That's what's amazing. Chevron's safety record is pretty significant, isn't it?
Safety is a priority for us. Some of the things you hear and folks not only just say it, they live it, is, there's always time to do it right, and we're either going to do it safely or we're not going to do it at all. And that is just part of our culture. When you begin a process, you start talking about how you're going to do it safely and who do you get the right people involved to make sure that you've got everybody aligned so that whatever you're doing, you can do safely. Because as you said, there's a lot of activity out here. When you're processing 369,000 barrels of crude every day and you're shipping in, enough crude so you'll be able to do that, and you're shipping out the resulting products, you've got business units that are generating a lot of heat in order to separate crude oil into the products that we need, and a lot of dynamics here. We're on 3,000 acres, about 2,000 of that we're operating on. So a lot of processing, a lot of activity, and it all comes down to those each individual's committing each and every day to do their part safely for themselves and for their coworker.
You think about Hurricane Katrina, the story that probably hasn't been told. We could probably spend a whole show about it. But the way Chevron was able to come back after Hurricane Katrina, that's a story in and of itself, isn't it? It
really is. So a couple of things there. One, I was county administrator during Katrina, so I had that perspective from the government side about, as Haley Barbour says, what Chevron was a great community partner, is a great community partner, and it's his quote in his book about, and it's referencing the response after Katrina. But it goes back to the men and women here at this refinery that look forward, that plan on operating safely, and how can they do something better next time. So going back a bit, in 1998, we had Hurricane George come through. And the storm surge came through the refinery, caused a lot of damage, all the electrical equipment damaged. This refinery was out for weeks, if not months, in repairing and trying to get to where they'd be back going again. Well, engineers got together and planned and designed a dike wall that surrounded the operational side of this refinery. It was a 20 to 30 foot high earth and metal construction. So fast forward to 2005, Hurricane Katrina comes in with its, extremely high storm surge. It did not come over. The dike wall held, and within days of Katrina passing, the refinery itself was able to start operating again. Now, you had all the stuff going on in the channels, all the debris and damage that was going out in other places that restricted flow of crude here. But this refinery was up and running, and we're sitting over there in the EOC, the Emergency Operations Center, after Hurricane Katrina has passed, and I'll never forget that the refinery general manager at that time, Roland Kell, and my predecessor, Steve Renfro, came to the folks here as we're trying to figure out how to get emergency operation equipment going, hospitals back up, just the basic necessities. And they said, we've got fuel at the refinery. We will donate so you can get these things back up, so you can get your emergency services started again. And it came as quite a blessing, right? I mean, we were able to do those things, run generators at the hospital, get emergency vehicles up and running again, get debris removal going, thanks to that fuel, that critical fuel. And then fast forward about a month later, we're all at all the county services are temporarily at at one of our community centers, and over in the corner is the tax collector's office. All the office is just a bunch of fold-out chairs in a corner, and we see Steve Renfro and them come back through again, and they've paid Chevron elected to pay its property taxes early. They're due in January. They paid them in, I believe it was like October, November, so that the county would have the necessary funding to be able to operate. So when this job came open, one of the questions I asked was, what was your interest in applying? And all I had to do was go through my experience of how Chevron was such a good community partner during Hurricane Katrina. It would be an honor to represent them. So anyway, that's how they were able to, because of the dike wall, because of the preparation, because of the people planning, and their heart for the community, we were able to be able up and running operationally, but also being able to have a positive impact on the community and its recovery efforts.
Yeah, Haley Barbour used to say after the storm many times, he would say that Katrina did not create character, but it revealed it. And we got to find out, I wrote a book about Katrina. It's unpublished, but it's lessons learned from Katrina. And one of the lessons in there is about in some cases, people you expected to step up, they did. And others that you would have expected to step up, they didn't. And then over here, people that you never even knew existed stepped up. And my lesson from that was, what is it about the busyness of life causes us to misread people? We move too fast, and the self-promoters get a lot of attention and whatever. And the people who are getting stuff done, they're quietly over here not looking for any attention whatsoever. And so what it told me was that we need to spend more time understanding the essence of who people are, because we got to see incredible leadership emerge after Katrina that we never really understood before. And that's one of the things that Haley Barbour talked about it a lot. It did reveal character in a big way. Listen, when I talked to Austin Golding, we talk about how America's energy policy needs to be somewhat recalibrated. And he worries that for the next 20, 30 years, because oil is going to be around for a long time. And we need to, and look, renewables is going to be part of our conversation going forward right now. But, we are not ready for EV tomorrow. We're just not ready for that. So the reality is, over the next 30 years, what are we going to do to get more refinery capacity?
Interesting perspective on that. I'm not sure we necessarily need additional refining capacity as much as we need the ability to maximize that refining capacity, and to have policies in place that enable us to continue the traditional side of our business, which is, getting crude out of the ground and processing it into the fuels that we need, while also investing in lower carbon alternatives. And it's an and discussion. And I think that's kind of the main concern, the main driver of the oil and gas industry today, and certainly Chevron's position, is that there are areas we need to be focusing on, and that is environmental stewardship, and lower carbon is certainly an area that we want to focus on. We're the second largest producer of renewable fuels in the United States, so that certainly we're playing a role there. But the traditional fuel, as you pointed out, is going to continue to play a role for many years to come. And the reality of that, it gives us an opportunity for us to have a more immediate and more impactful impact on lowering carbon than some of the evolving technologies. So we can be more effective in maintaining the energy that our country needs today, while also lowering carbon by keeping the oil and gas industry at the table and letting us have the similar access to some of the incentives, some of the policies that enable us to produce and make the fuels that are lower carbon, both on the production side and on the use side.
Yeah, that's interesting, and it may not necessarily require extra capacity in refining. What if you study, and I have done a little bit of this, you're looking at the lower carbon stuff. The industry's been engaged in serious innovation around that and making substantial investments in that as well, hasn't it?
That's right. That's right. There's some areas that we're involved in that are aligned with our core competencies. Hydrogen, the development of hydrogen as a fuel source, also carbon sequestration, carbon capture and sequestration, and the renewables we talked about earlier, biofuels. All of these areas are areas that not only Chevron's playing a part in, but parts that the refinery and our part of the country can play a part in. So we're excited about this refinery's role in providing traditional fuels like we've always done, and doing it in a way where we're more efficient and we're lowering the carbon of that processing, while we're also investing in these lower carbon technologies of the future.
So when we come back on the other side, we'll continue our conversation with Alan Sudduth from Corporate Affairs at Chevron. We'll see you after this. Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank studio. We have Alan Sudduth, who's a corporate affairs manager for Chevron, and again, someone I've crossed paths with for many years in the community. Alan, coming back to this energy policy conversation, the push to EVs, I think it's important that we continue to develop those technologies and those capabilities and all of that. But what I sense in sort of the current national energy policy is a disconnect with reality. So what role does Chevron play in helping say we don't disagree, we're doing the kind of innovation that you talked about as it relates to reducing carbon emissions, et cetera. We need to extend the runway on how all this is going to play out. And right now, I think, frankly, the push to EVs has been so strong that what it's doing is it's actually revealing in the EV future, or at least the EV situation, that we're not really ready for it yet completely, obviously. How do y'all talk about that?
We talk about it from the standpoint of we agree that our future is lower carbon, that we all need to work together to be able to provide energy in a lower carbon environment. How you get there, we believe you let technology and the market kind of drive that. Let the science enable you to be able to get there in the technologies that you have available today, while you're also building on newer technologies. And so we say, look, we have the ability to, and we're investing in lower carbon investments relative to our current situation, our current traditional processes and equipment, while we're also investing in the other technologies that, again, align with our core competencies that involve hydrocarbons, that involve ways in which we can lean on our expertise and our investments to have the greatest impact on lower carbon. While these other technologies evolve, we don't have history with and are involved in electric and battery production. So we'll let others who are in that space continue to develop that. What we think is that the policy should be such that it encourages both. It encourages all of us to do what we can. And when you have policies like EPA's focus on tailpipe emissions to be able to determine which vehicles get preference or which vehicles we should be moving toward, that really is not as sound of science policy as if you looked at the entire life cycle of the vehicle. If you consider life cycle of the vehicles, then we can work on par with a traditional internal combustion engine or an ICE engine as far as lower carbon. If you look at it from the production of the vehicle to where you get the energy source for batteries and for combustion engines and the disposal and the minerals that are all involved, when you take the whole entire life cycle of the vehicles, we can be on par with electric vehicles, and we're able to provide those vehicles and that fuel today versus having to wait, as you pointed out, for the number of vehicles that are taken that would require to get electric vehicles to be able to have the impact and the infrastructure that's required for them to be able to operate effectively.
Yeah, someone who's just an interested citizen, it's frustrating to watch. It really is, because it could be, we could develop a continuum as a nation to say EVs on one side and your traditional refinery capacities on the other, and you've got in between all these other options, and we should be pursuing it all, because the reality is our economy is currently based on oil. There's no way around that, and there has to be a smooth transition to lower carbon, and we're trying to rush it when the capacity is not there to rush it. That's my read on it. Hey, listen, yeah, go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say, you point out from a national standpoint, but from a global standpoint, energy demand is only growing. So we need to be able to have all technologies affordable to us. We can't afford to take one of the largest producers of energy off the table as we're trying to meet the growing demands.
Yeah, and there's some that are trying to force that hand, which is not realistic at all. It's just not. We need to get realistic and rational about our approach. That is for sure, because there is hundreds of millions of dollars being spent on innovation and R&D and all this other stuff, and everyone needs to be at the table so that we can have a smooth economic transition. That's what's important, and everyone agrees that we need to protect the environment. We need to be focused on that. Where does our oil come from, the oil that comes to Chevron? Where does it come from?
Primarily from South and Central America, and we have a pipeline that it originates out in the South Louisiana coast, so Gulf of Mexico and countries like Colombia, Venezuela is where we get the majority of our crude.
Interesting. And listen, when we talk about partnerships in the community and the work that you do in the community, what you saw when you were manager of Pascagoula, I remember Steve Renfro well in that job, and then of course Roland Kell, had the opportunity to know him really well. But when you talk about that, I can tell you just firsthand, you guys mean it, and I don't care who I talk to in the community. Chevron, they see as a partner in the community. And I just want to thank you for that. Keep up the good work. I wish we had more time together. We'll have you back, and we'll stay on top of what the latest at Chevron is. But it's been a pleasure, my friend.
Same here. Thank you for the opportunity to be with you today and to be able to continue to help you as you get the word out about all the good things going on in the Mississippi Gulf Coast. Appreciate you.
I appreciate you, my friend. This has been Alan Sudduth from Corporate Relations for Chevron. And have a great day, and we will see you tomorrow.